Recording.
Good morning, everyone. I am calling this meeting of the California Agricultural Labor Relations Board to order. First, we will go through the roll call. Please give a verbal voice vote. Board Member Broad.
Present.
Board Member Flores.
Present.
Do we have Board Member Hall? Okay, we'll come back, see if he comes to. Board Member Lightstone.
Present.
Great, thank you. Next, I would like we need to approve the most recent meeting minutes. And I apologize, Santiago, can you give the date for that? Was that the 19th? Minutes from the 19th?
I believe that's correct. I could double check right now.
I can see it right here. It says 19.
Okay, great. May I have a motion to approve the meeting minutes from February 19th?
So moved.
Okay, Member Flores, may I count that as a second?
Yes.
Great. All those in favor, please use voice vote and say aye.
Aye.
Thank you. The minutes have been approved. Next, we have the chair's report. I have a couple of updates. Since our last discussion, we presented our budget change proposals at the Assembly Budget Subcommittee hearing last Thursday. Our General Counsel, Julie Montgomery, presented both proposals on the board's behalf. We had minimal questions and no public testimony. The questions really revolved around or focused upon what changes we are seeing as a result of changes made at the federal level. And the General Counsel highlighted kind of the possible down the line direct impact, given that the National Labor Relations Board does not have a quorum, and what impact that could mean when they do get a quorum and once they start issuing decisions again, to the extent they overturn things. And then also the indirect but significant impact of Santiago, are we okay?
We're okay. That was my fault. Apologies.
Okay. All right. The indirect impact of immigration. But the very real consequences it has or effects that we feel here in the state. So thank you for that. The item was held open and we will next be in the Senate Budget Subcommittee in early April. Additionally, I also had the opportunity since our last meeting to meet with the board of directors for California Citrus Mutual and had a great discussion hearing about some of their concerns, some of their challenges, and what they're dealing with and sort of how they operate in the industry. And one of the things that was interesting to me, and they have members from all over the state, but definitely, in that southern part of the Central Valley and some on the coast that were voicing concerns, and they were discussing the need for housing. And so that's an issue we've dealt with at the board, had many conversations both in informational panels as well as across the administration and with stakeholders about, as it is a real issue that poses other challenges for the labor force. So gave them some ideas. The governor signed a bill to have a statewide farm worker housing study, that is being conducted by the UC Davis Western Center for Agricultural Health and Safety. They are midway through that study. We have contributed, and I did refer the board members to that as well. I know they're getting a large cross-section of interviews and information, including industry partners. So look forward to kind of see what comes of that and what, if any, recommendations are from that study. Lastly, we have had some major kind of administration news that's impacting our staff that I just wanted to touch on. One, we are looking at further efficiencies. Over the past few years, the governor has asked all state agencies to look at making reductions to its operating budgets, which the ALRB has done, and we were in fact highlighted in a legislative analyst office report a few weeks ago as one of the agencies that did fully comply with the most recent order or directive, to reduce operating expenses by 8%. So thank you to all of our teams, but particularly our admin team, for helping us effectuate that. We were asked to do something, we rose to the occasion. So I'm very grateful to the team for helping us meet that ask. Additionally, Monday, the governor announced a statewide return to work order of up to 4 days that will go into effect on July 1. We are still consulting with various agencies such as Cal HR, as well as our labor agency, on what that rollout will look like. I know staff have questions, and we will definitely be reaching out to staff with more information as soon as we have it. So appreciate your patience. And with that, that concludes the chair's report. I will turn it over to, I think, still just Santiago and not a kitty cat, our executive officer's report on elections, unfair labor practice complaints, and hearings.
Indeed. Good morning, Chair Hasid, members of the board. Today's report is oral only. There is no written report. There's just a few items to speak about. The first is, and I'll just mention the request to take hearing off calendar for Nagatoshi Farm. I previously reported that the general counsel's office, as well as the respondent, had entered into an informal bilateral settlement agreement, and that was actually filed on February 18th. Turning to new matters, there was an amended consolidated complaint filed, and the respondent there is Redwood Empire Vineyard Management, Inc. Case numbers 2024 CE 079 and 2024 CE 096. And that involves grapes in Sonoma County. And then finally, turning to the Sabala Farms of Salinas LLC, case number 2021 CE 018 SAL, that involves the board's decision of 49 ALRB number 1, matters in compliance, and was just transferred to the board with exception dates set for March 24th, and replies, if any, on April 3rd. And that's for the administrative law judge's order granting the general counsel's motion to deem admitted allegations in the back pay specification. That concludes my report. Happy to answer any questions.
Have any questions? Does not look like my colleagues have any questions. Thank you, Santiago. Next is our litigation report with Chief Board Counsel Laura.
Good morning. We don't have an update. The first case, ALRB versus Superior Court of Kern County, that's case number FO88632, FO88639. That's been fully briefed as of December, and there's nothing new in that case. The next case is the ALRB and UFW's appeals of the Superior Court order granting preliminary injunction and the Wonderful Nurseries versus ALRB matter. That's case number FO88515/FO88520. The opening briefs on appeal were filed by the board and the UFW February 7th. I reported on that last time, but some upcoming dates in that case are Wonderful's answering brief is due by March 10th, and reply briefs due 20 days later. Then in the case of U.S. District Court, Wonderful Nurseries versus ALRB, case number 1:24-CV-01601-KES-CDB. There was a development in that case that might affect, might affect the whole case. On February 12th, Wonderful advised the UFW that it would be reducing its workforce significantly by 2026. And in response, the UFW informed the board that it's withdrawing its request for MNC. the court case involves a challenge to the NMC process, including a request for injunctive relief. So in light of this new development, the Deputy's Attorney General representing the board are discussing the impact of this new development on the lawsuit. But in the meantime, there are some dates upcoming in that matter. The UFW filed a motion for leave to intervene in January in the case, and we're still waiting for the court's determination on that. The group of wonderful employees represented by the National Right to Work Legal Defense Foundation also filed a motion to intervene. The board filed an opposition to that motion February 18th, and there's a hearing set on that for March 17th. Wonderful also filed a motion for preliminary injunction earlier in February. The board filed its opposition to that February 24th, and there's a hearing on that also on March 17th. This is if the matter continues to go forward. And then as far as the board's response to the complaint, there's an extended deadline on that, which is April 1st. So we'll wait and see what happens with that. And then finally, there's a new matter, Chavez et al. Versus ALRB. This is another case in Kern County Superior Court. The case number on that is BCV-25-100649. This is a complaint filed in Kern County Superior Court on February 21st. It's filed by the same group of employees that sought to intervene in the federal matter, represented by the National Right to Work Legal Foundation. And it alleges that the majority support petition process violates various provisions of the state constitution, as well as the First and 14th Amendment of the US Constitution. We have not been served yet with the complaint in that matter. So I don't have any briefing scheduled for that yet. So may have more news on that at the next meeting. And that's all I have. I'm happy to answer any questions.
Thank you, Laura. That's a lot. That's plenty. I will turn over to our general counsel, but before I do, I just want to note, Member Hall is present and we got him up on our board here so I could see him. So thank you, Member Hall, and welcome. Good to see you. Next, we will go to our general counsel's report. Good morning.
Good morning, all, both in person and virtual. I am happy to talk about the Nagatoshi Farm settlement that our executive secretary mentioned. This was a case that a Japanese vegetable harvester or one who is a worker who is harvesting Japanese vegetables, we'll just say, in Ventura County, filed an unfair labor practice charge on December 26, 2023, claiming that Nagatoshi Farm retaliated against the worker when they terminated his employment after complaining about the duration of his work breaks and pay dates. The ALRB filed a complaint, or the general counsel filed a complaint on December 17th, 2024. And the matter was set for hearing to begin on April 1st. The ALRB, Nagatoshi Farm, and the charging party entered into an informal bilateral settlement agreement to fully resolve and settle the complaint. And that was just a couple of weeks ago. And Nagatoshi Farms paid the charging party all of the back wages of $3,254, gave the worker an offer of reinstatement, and then we're also going to effectuate all of the standard reading and noticing remedies. So kudos to Region 1 and the staff who worked on that matter for getting full resolution this case in advance of the hearing, and also in getting a complaint on file less than a year after the case was filed. So they got some good swift remedies for the workers in that case. So also, I want to just give a brief overview of some of the outreach that our staff has been working on. Just to start out, Daniela Ramirez, our outreach manager, did want me to let all of you know that coming up on March 9th, which is just in a few days, staff will provide a training to workers at CBDIO's monthly meeting in Lindsay in Tulare County. And CBDYO is Centro Binacional de Desarrollo Indígena Oaxaqueño is what it stands for in Spanish. Binational, it's a binational indigenous development organization in their group in Tulare County, or their group in the Central Valley is one that we've been really working on forging connections with and collaborating more closely with in recent times. And so I'm really happy to see that the staff is in fact providing these resources to this group, and that we have this relationship. And the same organization out in the coast, I know is connected with our regional director out there and our Oxnard and Salinas offices as well. So just want to emphasize the importance of our relationships with these nonprofits and CBOs, who are all the more critical right now in helping us to be able to effectuate our mission for workers, because of all of the fear that is out there and concern that people have interacting with government. And a lot of folks do not see a difference between state and federal government. And when they hear messages from our federal administration about immigration enforcement and other things, I don't think that they necessarily recognize that distinction. So these nonprofits are all the more important to be the link between us and these communities. So just want to give a shout out to our staff who've been working really hard, even like before, for the past few years, and then even since the election, to continue to build on and strengthen those relationships. We are also, in that vein, going to be starting office hours in Lamont, which is in Kern County, at a nonprofit. It's called Unidad Popular Benito Juarez, and I know some of our staff have met with that organization and also been cultivating a relationship with them over time. And these office hours are going to be every other week, starting next week. And we're going to have an attorney who is there from 1 to 6 p.m. available to meet with workers, and also we'll be providing outreach to groups in addition to meeting with people one-on-one. So we're really happy about that collaboration. That's in addition to office hours we're doing in other areas, including East Ventura County, where we have people going to Poder Popular, including our attorneys who've been also providing services to that rural area. And then just a real brief overview. Our staff's been pretty busy in February. They've gone to a lot of different events, which I'm not going to mention, but just they've been in particular showing up at Know Your Rights presentations for immigration, like Immigration Know Your Rights. There have been a lot of those lately, as you can imagine. And so our staff has been invited by our CBO partners to introduce themselves, talk about the ALRB and how we can provide services and support workers if they're raising issues at work, and just emphasizing that immigration status is not something that we ask about, talk about, has nothing to do with the services we provide. We don't collect that information. And so there were a number of those, including in Tulare County, Riverside County, Monterey County. There's been quite a few. We're also training a number of CBOs including, as I mentioned, CBDIO and various other groups. There's Central Labor Council. There was also a training of their staff in Salinas, and also Know Your Rights events that we participated in together with Sierra Leone Foundation, EDD, and Cal OSHA in Woodland, which is in Yolo County, close to Sacramento. And there were a lot of other events, like I said, that I'm not gonna be able to mention. So just again, shout out to our staff who've been out there building these relationships and doing this work, and also just providing the day-to-day services to workers in our cases and otherwise, and just working within the current climate. So just want to send a message of appreciation to each and every one of you. Thank you.
I have a question.
Yes.
So, are you or your staff observing any evidence that witnesses of ours are not as willing to testify or anything like that? If there's some pulling back of accessing our services or providing witness testimony or making people making themselves available. Are you seeing that?
Yeah, I mean, I know, I'm sure as you all are aware, I know at a hearing, I guess it was in Kern County, wonderful, we heard that there were some, bless you.
I'm sorry.
No, there are some, there were some expressions that maybe some witnesses weren't showing up out of fear. But I will just say that there is a general fear and reluctance that I know our staff is hearing about, and we experienced this over 4 years ago as well, where it was real that people would say, hey, I don't want to put my name on something, or I'm concerned about having to show up at this proceeding. So I mean, that concern is out there and it's real. And I know we're going to be there. We will be continuing to collect stories about that as they arise. And I have heard from the staff that yes, people are expressing concerns and about that issue.
So one follow-up question. I haven't read anything about this, but are some of these nonprofit organizations that we're partnering up with that work in the immigration rights space, are they themselves being subject to, at least so far, enforcement actions on behalf of the federal government with regard to immigration issues, or their participation in immigration issues, or counseling people or anything like that?
I don't know. I mean, I've heard just in the news about some threats to defund groups, right? But I haven't heard of, of anything specific, although I know there's a lot of concern out there, and nonprofits similar to the state, I know, have been working to train their staff and have policies on what to do if immigration enforcement officials show up at your door, and what are the protocols, and yeah.
And are we telling our staff what to do if they're at a third party location like that, and that happens, what they're supposed to do?
I mean, I think that the advice would be similar to what we tell them to do if they show up at the office, right? Would just be, if somebody, you don't talk, you don't talk to enforcement officials or give information unless somebody has a signed warrant by a judge that we've vetted and we've said, yes, you have to comply. And only certain designated individuals will be able to make that call.
Do they identify themselves as working employees of the state though?
Oh, our staff does, yes,
Yeah,
yes,
okay.
yes. Yeah, we have people carry business cards and ID, and they are supposed to identify themselves as representatives of the ALRB when they're going out and interacting with the public.
Because I'm a little concerned about whether you know, somebody in our staff could wind up being arrested with a whole bunch of other people. And that the federal government doesn't necessarily concerned with who they actually are at that point. You know, they're just like, prove you're a citizen, and
Yeah, I mean, one thing
they
we've done
can't
is,
really prove they're a citizen at that moment, and
well, I can't today, sitting here.
neither-
I don't have my birth certificate on me or
neither,
my
not-
passport.
neither
Yeah.
can I, and neither can
Yeah,
most people
yeah.
in the United
Yeah.
States.
Right, and everyone is worried about that. I will absolutely represent that, yes, our staff is worried about that. Absolutely. We are giving out the, what is it, the red cards that people have been reading about in the news that, but, and I think Immigration Legal Resource Center has been producing and giving out just that explains your rights and your right to remain silent, you know, your basic Fourth Amendment rights. And we've been giving those out in our offices, and we ordered them. And so, yeah, but those are really great points you raise. And that is something I think that we can further emphasize with staff, just like make sure they know their individual rights as well as what to do to protect workers' rights.
Yeah, brave new world, thank you.
Yes,
A
yes.
lot going on. Did you have something?
Yeah, I was just gonna say, please send your staff our thanks for all their outreach efforts. It's really critical, obviously, at this time, and keep giving us feedback from them on how things are going.
Absolutely, absolutely. And hopefully a number of them are watching right now and they can hear you directly. So yeah, just the board, as and myself as well, really do appreciate everybody's efforts and dedication to what we're doing here.
And I want to echo, not just those sentiments, but also going back to some of the outreach events, particularly in the Central Valley. I just want to echo what Julia said. This has been a really deliberate, sustained, focused strategy that particularly the staff in the Valley and the regional director, Yesenia DeLuna, our communications manager, Daniela Ramirez, as well as the staff, particularly in the Visalia office, have put a lot of time and care into. And we are funded to do kind of larger one-stop shops with the Rural Strategic Engagement Program, but this is something that agency-wide, Julie and her team have been really focused on these office hours and pop-ups that I think are really critical to reaching workers, one, in areas where our offices are not directly located, and during times when they can actually go. And I really want to impress upon the fact that I feel, such gratitude when I hear about staff doing Know Your Rights presentations on Sundays and in the evenings and driving up in a day to go to Tule Lake. And we have another staff member, Omar, in our Indio office, who Julie shared a few months ago now, had been doing some kind of midnight, 2 a.m. Outreach at the border, and he's continued to do so and joined a collaborative group of people. And it's really impressive. And I think it's so valuable that we have such dedicated staff that are willing to do this. And I really want to emphasize how important it is and how grateful we are. And I'm very impressed. Never let it be said, good enough for government work. These guys go above and beyond. And so I just really want to emphasize that. Okay. We do not have a Division of Administrative Service. Thank you, Julie. We do not have a Division of Administrative Services report. We don't have a legislative report. We have a brief comment on regulations from Laura.
Yes, so briefly, I think I mentioned last time, OAL has 30 business days to review regulatory packages, and just beginning of last week, as the 30 days were coming to a close, there were a couple of issues that we couldn't resolve within that time period, and so we elected to withdraw our package. And then we resubmitted it yesterday, and that triggers another 30 business day review period for OAL. So hopefully we'll be able to resolve some of the issues that came up fairly quickly, but watch this space for more news.
Thank you, Laura, and thank you to our regulation subcommittee. Next, we will go to public comment. For those of you that wish to make public comment, there are several ways to do so. You may have reached out in advance of the meeting, but if you have not, we would still welcome your public comments. You can use the raise hand function, or I believe in this format, we still have the chat feature, and you can send a message or an email to Santiago or Satya, and their emails are on the agenda. And we will call on you upon order received. Please note we cannot discuss any or comment on or respond to or really hear any comments on any pending case matters. And we do ask that you go on mute when not speaking, just so we can manage sound quality. Santiago, do we have anyone in the queue wishing to make public comment?
No, we don't. So I'll invite folks that are attending. If you wish to make public comment, please raise your hand or send me a chat.
Give it a moment here.
None showing.
Okay, with that, we will go ahead and close public comment. The board will now recess into closed session, and thank you. We're going on a different Zoom channel for this, correct? Okay. Okay. It is 11:09 a.m. The board has returned from closed session. Next up, we have announcements. The board's next meeting is on Wednesday, March 19th, both here in Sacramento and online at 10 a.m. And we will have a informational panel on with a working title of wage theft and judgment issues in the ag industry. So excited about that. Thank you, Member Lightstone, for working on putting that together. And with that, that concludes today's meeting. Thank you, everyone. Bye.